Hello, I'm James Uthianchik from Feet to the Fire Radio. What you're about to see is a recording that I stumbled upon from October 26th, 2014, from Janet Phelan. She does a weekly report, or just about weekly, on various topics, one of which she's been talking about is conservatorship and guardians who have been fleecing the people who they've been put in by corrupt judges. She is reading and quoting from her book and her life in which this has happened, among other things. I had some really bad virus worm stuff on my recording computer. How it got there, only God knows. We're fixed now, but I did find this backup recording. Pretty much it's the whole interview that she did, and I thought it'd be better to put it out as is rather than have it lost. So here we go. Janet Phelan, October 26th, 2014.
So basically, the book starts off with my being approached by a man who was not whom he appeared to be, who happened to be a federal agent on assignment. And as it turned out, my family was his assignment. So this conservatorship of my mother, which was essentially jump-started by this man who goes by the name Jack Smith, lives in West Hollywood, California, ended up a little different than most court cases because of the federal involvement. And the book goes through what happened to my mother, what happened to me as I tried further and further to protect her, not understanding that my new boyfriend was actually my enemy. It's an unusual situation, but we do know that the feds plant people on people. The question that my book tries to answer is, why did this happen? And I think that I do make a fairly strong case for that. Nevertheless, my mother left this planet in May of 2004, and we then ended up with simply an estate matter in which I have been rather severely robbed. So I want to kind of discuss what's happening now, because given that I am in a situation where, for the reasons discussed in the book, which are very redolent of what is going on now in America, why there are targeted groups, what is really coming down the pipes. Because of this, now I have a court case that is a nightmare that is suddenly starting to change course. Why is it starting to change course? Well, I believe that it's starting to change course because of all of the publicity, the book, the radio shows, and everything, and also the fact that we have what appears to be a murdered woman. That would be my mother. We appear to have judges that have accommodated the murder and have essentially worked the trust to pay off one of the perpetrators. Now, this is kind of a disturbing scenario. You've got a court that is complicit in basically killing someone and then working very hard to pay off the murderers. So I want to read. So the court basically has been put on notice that if things are not properly adjudicated at this point in time, I'm going to be writing more books and making more noise about particular judges and what they did. So I'm going to start off here. I want to read just a little bit from this, from my book, in terms of what happened in a court. I was, as you may know, served with a restraining order after I brought my very sick mother to the hospital where she was operated on and her life was saved. Now, we're now here in this part of the book, the day of my restraining order hearing, because of course I get the right to stand up in court and say, wait a second, my mother was operated on, her life was saved. So, Judge Stephen Cunnison then got up and left the bench. I sat with Jack, the federal agent, waiting for my hearing on the restraining order to be called. After about 20 minutes, the bailiff came in and told us that court was closed for the day. Jack, I whispered, how could this be? I get a hearing, don't I? Doesn't the law, the Constitution, guarantee me a hearing? I think so, he whispered back. We got up to leave. Let's go check the calendar, I suggested. The calendar would be on file in the clerk's office, so we trundled downstairs and into the probate office. Would you check this morning's docket to see if a restraining order hearing was scheduled? I asked. The clerk bustled off. In strode attorney David Horspool. He parked himself at the counter about 3 feet away from us. He appeared to be simply lounging there, making no effort to engage the clerks. I think he is spying on us, Jack, I whispered. Jack suddenly seemed very nervous. I have to go smoke, he announced. Let's go. No, I said. I need to wait and see what the clerk has to say about today's schedule. I need a cigarette, he said loudly. So go have one, I suggested. I want to leave now, he bellowed. I whirled around to face him. So leave, I said. You can leave right now. I am waiting to see what the clerk has to say. Jack glared at me, but he didn't leave. The henna-haired clerk came bustling back. Yes, ma'am, she said. There was a hearing on a restraining order scheduled at 10:30 this morning, case number RIP 080974. Exhibit 9 shows that no one was listed as being in court for this restraining order hearing. I looked over at David Horspool. He was still leaning idly against the probate counter, staring blankly into space. Let's get out of here, I said to Jack. This is unbelievable. Okay, that's the segment I want to read. So basically, I was denied my right to due process. I was permanently restrained from my mother without a hearing as her defense against further bad acts by the conservator. Of course, having been legally restrained from my mother, she was not able to stay on the planet. So we have here a court which is happy to violate the Constitution on federal orders, essentially. What does this mean for other people? And this is what I explore in the book. Not only my own story, but what does this mean? Now, what has happened this week in the court, we had a final hearing. This is now, as we know, just in a state manner. The thieving trustee is trying to shut down the estate, and the judge is getting scared. Judge Karaman knows that I will be making allegations concerning accessory after the fact to felony murder, that I will be doing more and more media about this. And suddenly, the judge wants to hear, instead of just hanging up on me and bellowing at me and intimidating me in the courtroom, he suddenly wants to hear everything I say. He's very interested. He's very concerned. I have made sort of a sub sort of career out of helping other people in their corrupt court cases, and I do this by focusing on the judge. Is there evidence of financial misconduct by the judge? Is the judge actually, shall we say, getting payoffs and bribes through his home loans? These are sorts of things that can be discovered. So in other cases, I've been able possibly to get judges to back off from their targets simply by asking questions about their finances. My case appears at this point possibly to be taking a turn due to the terror that the judge is now experiencing from this situation. Also in this week, I went ahead and made Public Records Act requests to the district attorney in Riverside, asking for the number of cases that they have, the number of complaints that they've gotten about conservatorship abuse, either physical, medical abuse, murder, or theft, and also the number of cases that they've actually taken on and have gone to trial, which I suspect are zero. So at this point, I can't get a response from the DA's office. I also sent a Public Records Act request over to the Riverside County Public Guardian, asking for their case numbers of the cases that they now have, because if we have the kinds of theft and medical misconduct resulting in deaths of individuals. The court files may actually reflect this, and lo and behold, the public guardian is refusing to confirm receipt of the Public Records Act request. So we're moving forward in an effort to really make clear how our public officials are robbing our vulnerable elders and in many cases terminating their lives. It is really a shame that one has to get to the point of virtually threatening the judiciary with exposure and with allegations of special circumstances crimes in order to get justice. But this appears to be the situation now in America. Justice has become politicized, and in many cases the courts have become weaponized against individuals who are only attempting to protect someone else. And just as another example of this, we discussed last week on the show the situation surrounding Barbara Stone, who is now on house arrest and facing 5 years in prison for taking her mother, who was also a conservatee, out to lunch. So that's the report for today.
Nice. It's something that's probably been going on for a while. But you have these people who are looking at they're psychopaths that by definition, having no compassion at all. It doesn't bother them, and they're looking at these people as farm animals to simply fleece and then discard when they're done. And so there's no emotion involved. But when they have their butt in a sling, that's when they act, because of course they don't want to go to jail or whatnot. So by you doing these things and others, this will help these people. Of course, these guys need to be not only tossed out of their job, but thrown in prison. But I guess save the people first step, then worry about going after them next step.
I mentioned during this discourse special circumstances crimes. Felony murder in the state of California is a special circumstance crime which could invoke the death penalty. So when you have a murder committed in the course of another crime, such as embezzlement and theft, you have a special circumstances crime. Also, Title 18, Section 242 of the U.S. Code, deprivation of rights under color of law, which is exactly what that judge did when he denied me my restraining order hearing. That is also a very serious crime. So we have judges who feel that they can get away with this stuff because the media is keeping their lips zipped. Well, some media isn't. And given given that we, you, I, some others are now intensely reporting these situations, given that books are being written now about this, we are in a sense constituting a human rights defense against psychopathic murderers and thieves. And I want to thank you so much, James, for all you've done, to get out the truth about what's happening in our country.
Well, I appreciate it. I wish I could do more, but all I can do is what I can do. I never went the marketing route, so. But that's good, because then I don't have to report to anybody, so I can do this stuff. So I'm glad. Well, you're out there in the field. You got your, you're in the ditches out there. I'm back at home relaying messages. So you got the hard part.
Well, I just want to say, that there are certain scenarios. The judge is in a difficult situation now because he has made rulings essentially to pay off one of the murderer's team, and these rulings are clear in the court file. So what does he do? Does he suddenly reverse himself? Well, to do that puts his entire team at risk. It puts at risk the members of the district attorney's office who refuse to accept these complaints. It puts at risk the police officers who basically put all the reports into the round file. That's the trash cat. It puts at risk members of the Department of Justice who turned a blind eye to this. So what does he do? His neck is now on the chopping block. Is somebody going to try to buy my silence? Or is my situation going to become, shall we say, even more fragile? And in terms of fragility, I would recommend that people might want to read the book. I don't want to go into the perils of Pauline right now.
Yeah.
So I thank you very much for this time, James. And next week we'll be back on, back on the trail of more government corruption as it relates to larger situations besides mine.
All righty. Well, then we will talk to you next week. Take care. Be careful.
Thank you, James. Take care. Bye-bye.